Hey, what is up, everybody? This is your boy AJTRIP, and welcome to the Game According to Me. This is my podcast, also my vlogcast, as I am doing both the visual and audio versions of this one. Um, we're gonna have a lot to get to today. We're gonna talk about March Madness. We're gonna talk about the NFL and what's going on with the transactions and trades and some other news and notes. And some big things about um, like Deshaun Watson and things like that. You got recap quickly the NBA trade deadline from last week, and we're gonna do the Major League Baseball predictions and preview. So a lot of stuff to get through today. So wherever you listen to this or wherever you're watching this, sit back, relax, and let's talk some sports. Let's start with March Madness and the Final Four. It's we didn't have it last year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, so there was a lot of interesting things. A lot of people just happy to have it this year. This year it was done a lot differently. There were uh, some changes to the schedule. Games started like on Fridays or on Saturdays and went through like Mondays and Tuesdays and things like that. There were it's in one place. It's in Indianapolis. It's all the games were played in Indianapolis. They weren't played all over the country like they normally are. And of course, obviously, the fans were not as big time as they normally are. But well, it was happy. It was good to have it back, wasn't it? I think it was. And we had some great stuff, some great upsets. Talking about Oral Roberts upsetting Ohio State, and then upsetting Florida to make it to the Sweet 16. The same thing with once again Loyola Chicago upsetting Georgia Tech and Illinois to make it to the Sweet 16. Um, well, I mean, how about UCLA as an 11 seed? Now making the Final Four, upsetting Michigan, the number one seed Michigan. And so many great upsets, big time upsets. Ohio upsetting Virginia. You know, to make it to the tournament of 32, and North Texas, and it was really some really fun stuff. Really great ones. I'm not one of these ones. I want upsets. I want upsets. I want Final Four runs for Oral Roberts and Loyola Chicago, and I want Final Four runs for VCU and Butler and Florida Gulf Coast and George Mason and all of those all those other runs that happened in the past. I want those type of runs. I don't need 1 and 2 seeds making it to the Final Four. I'm glad we got an 11 seed. I'm glad they're facing Gonzaga. Let's go ahead and let's do this. We've got Gonzaga, who came out of the West, the 1 seed out of the West against UCLA. The 11th seed coming out of the East had a play-in tournament game. In fact, they will be going head to head for one spot in the championship game this Saturday. And the other one this Saturday is Baylor, the 1 seed from the South region, taking on Houston, the 2 seed from the Midwest season, Phi Sigma Gemma, back into the Final Four. And then those two teams, the winners of those teams, will meet Monday for the championship game. And it's going to be a great Final Four. I think all 4 of these teams are unbelievable. Gonzaga's has been tearing up the place. I would expect UCLA's run to end, but I predicting it, but I won't be surprised if it doesn't. But I think Gonzaga has been too good for a lot of this, and they have been the best team in the tournament. They've been the best team all year, still undefeated. That's always good. And Baylor and Houston have been very good in this tournament as well. Um, but I'm going to choose Baylor. I think we have Gonzaga and Baylor headed up Monday night, and then I think Gonzaga will win, and I think Gonzaga will hold the championship. They'll be the first undefeated national championship team since the Indiana Hoosiers of 1978, 89, or was it even earlier? Was it later? Was it 82 or 83? One of those teams. Actually, I think maybe in the 80s. I think they had Isaiah Thomas on it. So yeah, it was a team of the 80s. But yeah, it's going to be a great March Madness. This has been a fun tournament. Glad to have it back. I'm not a big college basketball fan, but when it gets to the tournament, I, like everybody else, get crazy for it. And I was glad to see it come back this year. So we'll wait to see what happens. But once again, just happy to have it back to watch on television. There is a reason why the NFL is king. Jesus Christ, I gotta hear it from my mustache or flying in my mouth. But yes, there's a reason why the NFL is king. They just year year round stuff happens and it is just incredible. It never ends. You can watch pro days on the NFL Network, and they are pro days, and then they got ESPN. They got people at people's pro days and everything like that. But obviously, what the big thing is that it seems to be this draft and these run-on quarterbacks that is happening, that is going to happen. Last week we saw two trades within the span of 28 minutes that reshaped the draft indubitably. We had the 49ers jump up from 12 to 3, trading with the Miami Dolphins. And then we had the Miami Dolphins going back from taking that 12 pick and going up to 6 to where the Eagles were and trading up with them. So changing the draft around inevitably. And then now what we have now is we possibly have the idea that there are going to be 4 quarterbacks taken in a row on draft day. Trevor Lawrence to the Jaguars. The Jets are looking to right now. They thinking they're going to take one. A lot of people are saying Zach Wilson. And then the 49ers, who have jumped up to 3, they're going to take a quarterback. And the reason why they're taking quarterbacks, they said that they were going to be left out. They felt they were going to be left out of the quarterback ram at 12. So they needed to take a shot. And with Jimmy Garoppolo, 1 year left on his deal, very injury prone. They wanted to take one that could sit behind Jimmy, and then Jimmy, um, you know, learn behind Jimmy. Hopefully this year, and then have him play next year or something like that. And Jimmy's a Super Bowl quarterback. He took the San Francisco 49ers to the Super Bowl, so they still have trust in Jimmy. I don't think they've already said that unless it's a special thing, they're not trading Jimmy. So they're keeping Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback in San Francisco. So that's no bug off that. And then the Falcons are at 4, and they can have the same thing happening with Falcons that the San Francisco 49ers want, which is Matt Ryan has 2 or 3 years left on his deal, and you draft a quarterback and have him sit behind Matt Ryan for a year or two, let him learn under the tutelage of a former MVP, possible future Hall of Famer. I'm not sure about Matt Ryan necessarily. Matt Ryan is one of those guys where you look at his stats. He's an MVP, the all-time Pro Bowl, the yard. He's gonna end up, in the top 5 of yardage of all time when he gets done, more than likely. But then you have to look at it that he played in the era that he played in this passing era, and was he ever really that great? So he's gonna be one of those guys that he may be one of the top 5 passers of all time. Won't get in the Hall of Fame, and that's incredible. I don't know. I don't know if that could happen. You become a top 5 passer of all time and not make the Hall of Fame, but that may happen with Matt Ryan because of just the way we now look at the passing game and things like that. And now with this 17th game, um, that could add on more yards and more stats as well because um, I believe I believe I think Peyton Manning has both the passing yard and the passing touchdown record. Peyton Manning I think he has 5,500 passing yards and 55 passing touchdowns in the season for the season. And now you get guys like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers is still out there and things like that, and who knows, whoever can make another jump, you know, into the thing, into the top echelon of quarterbacks. That, someone could go into week 17 with, 5,300 yards, just needing 200 or something to break the record, and again with 50, 3 touchdowns, looking only needing 2, and then because of that 17th game, they go ahead and they get it, and then you're like, well, if it was 16, they wouldn't have gotten it or something like that. So it's or you can even go into like the last one, like I just talked about Matt Ryan, which Tom Brady actually retired. He'll have the record for most passing yards and most passing touchdowns in a career. Where Matt Ryan, his last season goes into week 17, with 100 and some yards and 3 touchdowns behind him, and he gets those yards, and 4 touchdowns. And now he's the all-time leader, and he retires. So a lot of things to talk about that 17th game schedule. My opinion is I am not. I'm willing to give it. I'm willing to give it a try for a few years. I'll see how it goes. I don't want this to be a. I want to give this a chance before I say I don't necessarily like it. Because this could work out. This could work out. But my first inkling is to hate it, just for that reason, just because it's an even number. It's an odd number, I should say. If you're gonna do this, you would do this an even number with 18, and I definitely didn't want 18. I didn't want 18 games. I think that's crazy as well. But I don't know what we'll just have to. We really have to see what is going to happen. We really have to see what is going to happen with this. And let's see, like I'm going to give it a year or two to see if I like it, see if I can fall in for it. Otherwise, if I don't, then I hope they'll be willing to like go back to it and and go back to 16 games. And hopefully during any of those 2 or 3 years that it's happened, that we don't have like a big time controversy doing it. You know, when it comes to stats and other things, and maybe MVPs and Pro Bowls or whatever. So, um, yeah, I think that I'm trying to look here and see. Um, there's not a lot to go on through when it comes to um, things we know about some of the trades that have happened. And we talked about it, I think, last time with Russell Wilson and his people coming out with a trade and everything like that. So I think not a lot of other stuff has happened. I think the next time, I'm not sure the next time we'll do a podcast. I'm not sure the next time we do a podcast, but I do think we will be doing we were doing maybe the first ever live reaction or not the first ever, but the first in a couple of years, live reactions to the NFL draft. I think we will be doing that, uh, for the first round. So I think we will be doing that. So I think that could be really, really fun. Um, Something that is not fun is this thing with Deshaun Watson. We all know most of the story. If you don't, just quickly recap. Deshaun Watson, Houston, Texas, had a bad year. You know, horrible year. It started with the coach trading the star wide receiver, the DeAndre Hopkins, to the Cardinals in the offseason. Um, then just he got fired, and it was a terrible year for the Houston Texans. And it looks like that, Deshaun Watson, being the star quarterback, wanted to be a part of some of the, he wanted to make the decision, but he wanted to be a part of it. He wanted to, he wanted the company to, to take his advice on certain things, to, hire, interview people and some things like that. And I guess that didn't go down the way it did. Houston Texans said, yeah, sure, we'll do that. And then went right behind, and then the exact opposite. So Deshaun Watson got tired, and he decided to accept, and he made a formal trade request. And Houston Texans have said that they are now, no, they're no longer going to, they're not going to trade him, and that's what it's going to be. It's going to, even though there are several people out there saying that the Houston Texans are slowly but surely, saying, hey, we have to, we have to trade him. Um, to trade him, but the Texans at least publicly have said that he is our quarterback and we're not going to trade him. So, with all that said, a few weeks ago, some came out on the internet from a lawyer from Houston who has ties to the Houston Texas former owner, I think, McNair. I don't know if it's the dad who passed or if it was the son who owns it obviously now. But he has some ties to him, and he came out was in a thing about Deshaun Watson and him being a civil lawsuit against him against a woman who gave him a massage. And he was inappropriate with her, and Deshaun came out and said, nope, that's not the case. And ever since that day, more and more women have come out, and they've come out and come up with stories, and they are, and we just figured out today that it is 21 women have sued, formally sued Deshaun Watson, in civil court for these allegations of sexual assault and inappropriate behavior doing massages. And I heard the other day that actually is 24 women who have come forward to say that this has happened, but it's only 21 women right now have filed lawsuits. And this is either the biggest conspiracy to assassinate character in the history of this country, or Deshaun Watson has a serious problem, serious problem, and in more ways than one, not only emotionally but just life wise. It is unreal. So we're going to wait out, continue to see what happens with this story, and and see what happens with Deshaun Watson, and see if anything else comes from tradition. See if any more women come forward to anything like that. From the football side of it, I don't know how you trade him now and get the value that you deserve to get from him, and I don't know why you would trade for him now. Yeah, unless this is, I talked about the biggest conspiracy to assassinate, someone's character. You know, what if this is a scam by Watson or some team, something like that, so that they could, trade for Deshaun Watson and wouldn't have to pay for, they wouldn't have to give up everything you would give for Deshaun Watson, and then so, you know. I hate to say that because I'm not trying to say that I'm not trying to say that as to say that these women's allegations are not truthful or anything like that. I'm not trying to say that. I don't know. I was not there. Nobody was there. We don't know. That's why I say we have to wait and see what happens with these stories and things like that. Nobody knows. But I'm also not going to sit here and say that either side, the Houston Texans or Deshaun Watson himself, would not go low down as to make false allegations so that in the eyes of Houston Texans and for Houston Texans, nobody would want to trade for Deshaun Watson and he would have to play for Houston. Or in Deshaun Watson's case, he would, or that he would, be so bad looked upon in the eyes of Houston Texans that they would just trade him for anything or maybe even out not release him. We've seen what has happened in this world. We had a fucking insurrection January 6th. Anything can happen. And I am not, again, I'm going to wait and see what happens, but I'm not going to be surprised at, even if this somehow ends up with Deshaun Watson going to jail. I would not be surprised at this because that's just how this world works. And this is a crazy world. All right, so let's talk about the NBA trade deadline and some of the other moves that went down afterwards with the buyouts and everything like that. I'll start here with some from ESPN.com from reading here. The Miami Heat finalized the deal to acquire Victor Oladipo from the Rockets. The LA Clippers found their veteran point guard in a deal that netted them Rajon Rondo from the Atlanta Hawks. The Orlando Magic were busy sending Nikola Vucevic to Chicago, Evan Fournier to the Celtics, and Aaron Gordon to the Nuggets in separate deals. Meanwhile, Kyle Lowry remained with the Toronto Raptors, but his teammate Norman Powell was moved to Portland. The Pelicans did hold on to Lonzo Ball, but they sent JJ Redick to Dallas. There was many others moves. Let's see here. I think we can go to the ESPN winners and losers. We may get some ambient sound here. I'm gonna try to stop it before it does it. Okay, yeah, it's okay. Good. It says it doesn't automatically. It does automatically play, but it's yeah. All right, so that's good. Well, damn it. I get to to do a little bit of this. Okay, so I thought maybe we get some winners and losers. Doesn't look like that way. So, okay, so Sports Illustrated, who doesn't make you pay for some of their articles like ESPN does. Shame on you, ESPN. Shame on you. Gives you a little recap over the winners and losers of the trade deadline, and these are not like also teams or anything like that. These are I looked scroll through these really quick. These are like a bunch of these could be also players and other things like that. Like the winner, the Miami Heat. Miami Heat getting Victor Oladipo to add on to it. They get rid of Myers Leonard. Trade with Trevor Ariza. Uh, so yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about for Myers Leonard. The loser, the bigs. So Aldridge and Andre Drummond had no takers, although, like I mentioned earlier, they've been bought out. Aldridge is going to the Nets to hang with Blake Griffin and Kevin Durant and James Harden and unfortunately Kyrie Irving. and Andre Drummond is going to go with the Lakers, and he's going to be their third guy, I guess. He's a guy that still can score 20 points, and yeah, he got tremendous defense, and him and it was him, AD and LeBron. That's three parts of your defense that is solid as a rock, and that's always good to have is a solid defense. Um, Deflating wins the Sixers. Yes, the Sixers got George Hill from Thunder, but they didn't get Kyle Lowry, who they was looking to get. So uh, I think even though they got a point guard, to help out with Ben Simmons and everything like that, they really wanted Kyle Lowry. I think to really get everything done, and it would have been unfortunate. It would have been a really good thing. Loser are Drake fans. I'm not gonna do this or anything like that. Some other things as well. The winners, he has winners, LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And I think because they add Drummond to be nice, You can also say they are losers too, because they did not go after Kyle Lowry, they did not go after anybody else. And LeBron James and Anthony Davis hurt on the sidelines. Again, I've said this before. I don't think that they are going to lose so many games that they get out of the 10th spot. They may fall, um, uh, but they're not going to fall out so far where teams need to be worried. You let them sit and you let them get 100% healthy for the playoffs. If you're the other Lakers, you don't bring them back during any time. Yeah, let LeBron tattoo artists. Let him do that all he wants to until that ankle and that leg is on 100%. Loser. It says here Zach LaVine fake trades. I'm not sure what that means. I guess it says here somebody Levine was somebody whose name I think people were trying to will into existence as a possible guy on the move. Instead, Bulls doubled down on him by adding Nikola Vucevic as a pick and pop partner. I like that Chicago is actively trying to get into the postseason, sometimes aggressively, and barreling toward the middle is perfectly fine, especially if you only made the playoffs once in the past 5 years. And that's how I kind of feel. As most of you may know, I am a Bulls fan, I'm a Bears fan, I'm a Cubs fan. But then these teams mean the most to me. And in the decade of the 2010s, I've rooted a lot for these teams to lose. I've rooted a lot for these teams to lose. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of rooting for these teams to lose so that they can get better draft picks, so that they can, get better things. And it's time to stop. It's time to stop right now. It's time to stop rooting for these teams to lose. It's time for these teams rooting for these teams to win, and particularly the Bulls and Bears, because at this point it is sickening. It is some point. It hurts your heart. Hurts your heart that you sit up there, you're watching, a Bears game, you're trying to figure out what's best. Do I root for the Bears so that they can make the playoffs, or do I root against the Bears so that they can get a higher draft pick? And I never want to do either one. The Bears and the Bulls, they should be, and the Cubs actually, really. These are teams that should be able enough to be good enough to where they can reload during the draft, where they can reload, replace players during the drafts, things like that. They should go and they should go on runs where you make the playoffs, you know, 8 out of 10 in a decade of 10 years, you make the playoffs 8 years. That's what it should be for the Bears and the Bulls and the Cubs. That's the way it kind of should be, and I think that's something that we need to to work on as fans. Is to stop saying, well, we can't win a championship. Let's just burn the fucking thing down. No, 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 no. Let's not do that. Let's recap. Let's retool, not rebuild, but let's retool, and let's come back next year fighting better than ever and try to make these playoffs. Um, he has here the A for effort. The Nuggets. He says even though he's not sold on the Aaron Gordon move to Denver, uh, uh, he does see some. He does see them capitalizing on Nikola Jokic's MVP caliber campaign, and also with the trade of JaVale McGee coming, seems to be really good. So yeah, I think what they did was epic as well. Gave away some of their guys to get Aaron Gordon, who has turned himself into a better 3-point shooter this year. So I think they are truly one of these teams that they really are looking at getting, like, having your point guard as Jamal Murray, having your center as Nikola Jokic, and then having three wings that can guard the other three positions around 6'8", 6'9". That's what they have right here. They have, like, I think Gordon is 6'8", Michael Porter Jr. is 6'9", 6'10". I think. And I think they probably have someone else who I'm probably missing at this point, who is probably around 6'6", 6'7" as well. And they can all play those. They can all play and guard those other three positions. And I think that's one of the ways they are playing. They try to play basketball, and we'll see if it works for them. But yeah, they the article Sports Illustrated is giving them an A for accurate, and they also say the winner is the Knicks. They made no head scratching, no short sighted moves as they sit in fifth place in the East. The strongest sign yet that 2021 is going to be a very different year. So the winners are the Knicks. So yeah, this is a interesting landscape we are now in the NBA. I think there's a report out right now that the Los Angeles Clippers they plan to sign DeMarcus Cousins. So they're going to sign DeMarcus Cousins to a contract. So that is going to be very interesting. See what Boogie does in Clipperland. Um, so let's see. Um, as we look here, um, looking for the standings. I'm gonna click on this here because I want to see where we're at now in the East and in the West. Okay, so in the Western Conference right now, we have the Jazz leading the pack, the Suns, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Trailblazers, the Spurs, the Mavericks, the Grizzlies, and the Warriors. And the play-in tournament has been announced. Here's how the play-in tournament is going to go. The 7 and 8 seeds, which in the Western Conference right now would be the Spurs and the Mavericks. They would play, and they would, so they would play for the 7th seed. And then I think the Grizzlies and the Warriors, who are 9 and 10, they would play for the 8th seed. And then apparently there's also like a losers tournament where the loser of team would also play, and they would play. Uh, I don't know. It's really crazy, but that's how I think I know it goes. Something else will happen right there. And right now, when we talk about that, the first team behind the Warriors are the Sacramento Kings. So Warriors have a chance to get there. They are a game and a half up on the Warriors. In the Eastern Conference, we have the Sixers and the Nets, Bucks and the Hornets, Knicks and the Hawks. They would be in already. The Celtics and the Heat are 7 and 8. The Pacers and the Bulls are 9 and 10. So they would play. The Bulls have a 4-game lead on the Raptors. So we'll have to wait and see how the rest of the season goes. But yeah, I'm inside. I'm excited to see how this goes. Again, I like I talked about with the 17th game season. I'm willing to look and see how this play-in tournament goes. I really did. I didn't pay much attention to the playoff play-in tournament last year because I thought it was kind of stupid with everything like that. But with this doing some type of season and trying to do some different things, I'm trying to look at this year, especially if my Bulls have a shot at it. So I'm gonna check and see how this looks at it. But uh, I really think that you really should just continue on with just going 1 through 8 and just going 1 through 8 and doing it that way. 1 through 8 in the East, 1 through 8 in the West, and just do your playoff teams that way. Start with these playing tournaments. With the MLB season starting tomorrow, we're here to do the MLB season preview and prediction show. So what I'm gonna do here is once again I got an article from ESPN, and hopefully I can read the whole thing. But it's a preview. It's basically they've says here, we've asked our baseball experts to rank every team from 1 to 30 going into the new season for our first MLB Power Rankings of the year. While ESPN.com writers Bradford Doolittle and David Schoenfield teamed up to provide a best and worst case, most exciting player, and one bowl prediction, along with Doolittle's win-loss prediction for all 30 teams. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to go through all 30 teams, talk about the best case and worst case. from here on this ESPN article. And then at the end, I'm going to give you my awards. I'm going to give you who are winning the ALCS and the NLCS, and then and of course the World Series. So this here. They had number one, the LA Dodgers. Best case. Dodgers look good on the field as they do on paper, featuring an all-star caliber player at every position in the lineup most days. Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger, and Corey Seager square off for NL MVP honors, while Trevor Bauer, Walker Buehler, and Clayton Kershaw do the same for the Cy Young Award. LA clinches the NLC West early, challenges all the all-time wins record, and cruises to a second straight World Series title. That's best case. Worst case, a spate of injuries forces the Dodgers to rely on their considerable depth during the season in which the San Diego Padres explode with the dream season. Los Angeles division title streak ends at 8. The Dodgers enter the postseason at a wild card, hope to get a crack at the Padres in October to reestablish their supremacy in the division. So this guy seems to think that the Dodgers are just, they're unstoppable. Number 2, the Yankees. Best case, they stay healthy, the rotation stays intact. Garrett Cole joined every 5-day turn by Corey Kluber and Jimmy Santillan, joined by Luis Severino sooner rather than later, setting up a vicious October rotation. Judge and Stanton both play at least 150 games. The Yankees don't need depth this time on the way to 102 wins, setting up on the path for epic World Series showdown with the Dodgers. Worst case, can this team ever stay healthy? And that is it. They Stanton and Judge do get injured a lot. Um, the Kluber, Talon Savino, and German portion of the rotation, which combined for 18 pitches a season ago, it combines for 35 starts. Judge, Stanton both pull muscles that most people don't have. Gary Sanchez goes for a 17 and 402 on the season, albeit with 16 homers. Since the Yankees wins 89 wins and have to do battle just to squeak into the October bracket via the wild card. These are actually pretty funny. The best case scenario for the Padres were number 3. The Padres are one of 6 active franchises without a World Series title. Best case scenario for this team is now going forward is to leave that unfortunate club. It can happen if Fernando Tatis Jr. continues his takeover of the big leagues and the rotation gets enough innings from most of his dynamic performers to make San Diego an elite run prevention squad. If all has come together, the Pods can win upward of 100 games and end the Dodgers' hegemony in the NLC West, in the NL West. Worst case, for all the reasons to be excited about the Padres, is not an entire roster. For all the names in the rotation, they've been plagued by either consistency or durability. The bullpen can be anywhere from elite to below average. And while the offense looks great, you can envision a team that falls just a little bit too much in love with the long ball during the season, when homers can become very hard to come by. If all goes bad, the Pods could land in the low 80s in wins and wonder how the heck they're ever going to catch the Dodgers. Number 4, the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves off-season acquisitions of Charlie Morton and Drew Simply pay off to bolster a rotation. Happy to get Mike Soroka back to join Max Fried and Ian Anderson. That group could become a classic Atlanta rotation that undergirds at 100 wins and an ELCL shot at the Dodgers. Worst case scenario, another injury spate hits the rotation and the Braves' reworked bullpen mix doesn't hold up. They slip into the mid-80s in the win column and fall behind the Mets, Nationals, and Phillies in what shapes up to be a record ELC East. Speaking of that, they've got the Mets at 5. The Mets emerge as the team most likely to knock off the Dodgers, as Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, Michael Conforto, and Dom Smith leads the NL's best offense. The rotation and health and a grand end season return by Noah Syndergaard. The Mets finally give Jacob deGrom the support he needs and cements his status as the game's best pitcher en route to 25 wins and another Cy Young Award. Lindor has so much fun, he decided to stick around for a while. We've also heard recently that he turned down a 10-year, $300 million contract, and I think he countered offer with a 12-year, $325 million contract. So we'll see if they decide to give him that. The worst case scenario, despite the new owner and all the good tidings from the offseason, the Mets still prove to be the Mets. Rotation behind DeGrom can't stay healthy. The bullpen imposed. The defense is one of the league's worst. The Mets stagger to win 80 wins and a 4th place finish. Discord ensues, and Lindor decides there has to be a better situation for him somewhere else. Number 6, the Minnesota Twins. Let's say this. Byron Buxton stays healthy and approaches his speed, defense, and power ceiling. Miguel Sano, Josh Donaldson, and Nelson Cruz prove to be the AL's top power trio. Alex Kirilloff is promoted early and helps balance the offense. The Twins win 96 games and repeat as AL Central champs and show that their run of success is built on a sustainable foundation. The worst case scenario, the lineup is beset by injuries and age. The revamped rotation flounders, the Twins slip to 82 wins and start to look over their shoulders at the likes of the Royals and Tigers in their division. Well, okay, I don't even say where were the White Sox at, but they are. They have the White Sox at 7. Best case, the White Sox stay healthy starting now and avoid having to tap deep into their organizational depth. The team responds to the return of Tony Lucas to the South Side, en route 95 wins and their top seed in the AL bracket. The postseason run is bolstered by a blistering return of Eloy Jimenez from his late spring injury. The worst case scenario, the Jimenez injury turns out to be just the downgrade the White Sox couldn't afford, as Adam Eaton fails to find his earlier White Sox form, and a lack of depth and leads to inconsistent attack. As things unravel, so does La Russa's relationship with his young Chargers, and a disappointing season ends with 80 wins and a third-place finish. Number 8, the Tampa Bay Rays. The best case scenario, the Rays use 72 players who all contribute exactly a .6 score, and Tampa Bay's Hive leads another AL East crown. Kevin Cash is selected by the Cyclone Empire as his new imperious leader, knowing that he could be replaced by a replicant if things should go awry. Why is he doing that to that man, into this team? Oh boy. The Rays, worst case, the Rays are set up to get better as the season goes along, with young waves emerging from the minors or the alternate site to plug holes in the rotation and lineup. But the veteran rotation flops early before the Rays are ready to start moving up young arms. It becomes a middle of the season trying to stave off the Red Sox for third place. Number 9, the Houston Astros. Best case scenario. Jordan Alvarez picks up where he left off in 2019, while Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, and Carlos Correa find their respective forms that led from that campaign as well. Meanwhile, Kyle Tucker matures into an all-star level hitter to fill George Springer's void in the lineup as the Astros again push into the mid-90s win column back to the top of the AL West. Worst case scenario. Altuve's 2020 season turns out to be more of a signpost than a fluke. Correa struggles under the pressure of his walk season, and the Astros have to dip further into their pitching depth than they would prefer. Houston ends up winning 84 games and misses the playoffs for the first time since 2016, which many people would love since people continue to call out the Houston Astros for cheating and winning the title a couple years ago that way. Number 10, the Toronto Blue Jays. Best case, Toronto's offseason emphasis on collecting veteran starters who can provide stable innings and lots of them pays off. The bullpen finds answers in the aftermath of losing Kirby Yates for the season, and the offense becomes one of the game's best, most prolific, and most fun to watch. The Jays take advantage of another injury-riddled Yankee squad, win 93 games, and steal an AL East title. Worst case, Marcus Semien is more 2020 than 2019. George Springer falters from the pressure of a new contract. Vladimir Guerrero continues to hit a lot of hard ground outs, and the rotation turns out to be a mess. A situation exacerbated by a team defense that could hardly be worse if the players were mason towels rather than gloves. The Jays flop to 88 losses and leave everyone wondering what comes next. Oh my God. 11, the Nationals. Best case, Juan Soto does what he did last year, only this time for 162 games. The Nationals remind everyone that even in 2021, it's quite a luxury to roll out 3 legit aces every 5 days. The bullpen comes together behind Brad Hand, and the veteran-heavy position group comes together to win the 2019 title-winning Nats did. Washington rolls to 95 wins and reclaims the top spot in the NL East. Worst case, veteran Favre turns into a problem with too much age. Soto misses a chunk of time, and Trey Turner struggles out of concern for his long-term whereabouts. The mileage on the Nationals' cadre of name-brand starting pitchers becomes a glaring issue. Washington looks tired and shiftless during an 88-loss season that suggests the rest of the NL East has passed it by. 12. The Oakland Athletics. Oakland's elite defense backs the Athletics. Wait a minute. Best case. Oakland's elite defense backs the Athletics' deepest, most stable rotation yet. Okay. Sergio Romo and Trevor Rosenthal integrate into Bob Melvin's back of the bullpen mix to cover for the loss of Liam Hendricks, who is now in Chicago. The Mets, Chapman and Olsen bounce back at the plate, joined by emergent star backstop Sean Murphy, and Elvis Andrus proves that the Rangers turned the page on him well too soon. Oakland wins 97 games and holds off the Astros to repeat as AL West champions. Worst case, with a less lively ball impacting teams around baseball, the Athletics take and rake offense flounders. The new bullpen shuffle falls flat, and the rotation is pedestrian. The A's are still a middling 81-win team, but they are never a factor with the tough Astros and Angels battling out in their division. By the way, that's something else that is very, very strange. Heard this offseason that the Major League Baseball had their people who make the balls make it so that it wouldn't fly farther. They actually, instead of juicing them, they unjuiced them, I guess. That to me makes no sense. I understand that you want to, you want to try to get away from the free outcome of baseball, which is, walk, strikeout, and home run. But is that the way to do it? I mean, I like I like the no shifting thing. I like that a lot more than the other things. I don't know what they were doing. Let's continue. Number 13, Milwaukee Brewers. Best case, with an elite defense, rotation, and bullpen, the Brewers turn into the 2021 version of the 2020 Rays as a run prevention juggernaut. Christian Yelich recovers his MVP form from 18 and 19, and that's combined with a triumphant return season by Lorenzo Cain and a breakout campaign from Keston Hiura. Milwaukee wins 93 games and cruises to a division title. Worst case, Yelich is more good than great. Kane loses a step after a year away, and the offense ranks one of the baseball's worst. Meanwhile, the bullpen disappoints as Josh Hader shows some wear and tear before being traded, and Devin Williams can't repeat his devastating rookie season. The Brewers end up battling the Reds for third in the NFC Central with 75 wins. 14, the Cardinals. Best case, Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt spark a more balanced offense. Cardinals play baseball's best defense, and the young outfielder potpourri generates a sweet aroma. Meanwhile, the rotation overcomes spring uncertainty to provide stable bulk innings in front of a dynamic bullpen as the Cardinals outman the Cubs and Brewers to win the NL Central. Worst case, the outfield flops. The Cardinals struggle for runs despite their new 1-2 defense offense combo. Their run prevention is fine, but everything St. Louis does in this area, the Brewers do better. The nightmare is completed with the demise of the Cubs, proves to be highly exaggerated. St. Louis logs another winning season but misses the playoffs, and no one who can see the Gateway Arch is particularly satisfied. 15, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Best case scenario, Mike Trout leaves no doubt who the best player in the game is, and is joined in the MVP chatter by Anthony Rendon and Shohei Ohtani. That trio of stars is enough to boost a stable healthy league average roster to 95 wins and enough to edge the Astros and Athletics for the AL West title. Worst case scenario, Angels rotation can't contribute either a quality or a quantity of innings. Trout looks like he's lost a step, and Ohtani suffers more injury woes. The Angels again limp to a losing season as pundits start to wondering if the Halos will ever contend while Trout is a star player. I think people are wondering that right now. People are saying he's the best in the game, but he's not led his team to a playoff season. I don't think at one point he has. So 16, the Phillies. Dave Dombrowski knows his stuff. This is best case scenario, by the way. The Phillies Horror Show 2020 bullpen turned out to be something you can watch without a blindfold in 2021. The rotation finds a quality third wheel behind Nola and Wheeler, and Harper reminds everyone why he was once projected as the perennial MVP candidate. Phillies win 90 games and edge the Mets and Nationals for a wild card. Worst case scenario. The sum is still way less than the parts. Harper is fine, but not transcended. Alec Bohm commits 46 errors, damn, and the team defense shows the range of your average foosball table. The Fields flopped to 68 wins in a backseat to the Marlins in the East. 7. My Cubbies, the Chicago Cubs. Best case scenario, the Cubs offensive stars like Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, and Javier Baez return to producing like stars, and the revamped pitch to contact rotation pairs them perfectly with strong defense. The Cubs take advantage of a soft division, win another NLC crown, albeit with the worst mark among MLB first place teams. Worst case scenario, the Cubs rotation turns out to be the worst type of group for this era, when the deadened ball turns out not to be that dead and the wind blows out irregularly most days. Meanwhile, the 2020 struggling hitters continue to flail. The Cubs turn into aggressive sellers by the end of July. A golden era of Cubs baseball ends with an 85-loss flop. That is what most Cubs fans are worried about. We are worried that this is, that they're not looking to retool. Like I talked about earlier, the teams should be retooling, not rebuilding. That they are wanting to rebuild, and and that they are, and they may be, and if they were to be good, it would be okay. But they're actually hoping that they're bad, and there's some of them saying that they might do a white flag trade, which is where the Cubs are 2 or 3 games up at the trade deadline, but they trade their best players. They still trade away Bryant and Rizzo and Baez and many others to try to refill the stuff the minor leagues. So all could be done by this one last season. Are we doing a retooling, or are we doing a full rebuild? We'll have to wait and see for us Cubs fans. The team the Cubs beat in the 2016 World Series, the Cleveland Indians. Number 18. Best case scenario. Even without Francisco Lindor, Cleveland once again turns out a top 10 rotation backed by a solid bullpen. Jose Ramirez puts up MVP level campaign. Another hitter, perhaps Franmil Reyes, emerges to fill the offensive void opened up by the Lindor trade. And it all adds up enough to hang tough in a 3-team AL Central race with the Twins and the White Sox. Worst case scenario. Ramirez is more good than great. Shane Bieber turns out to be the only standout in the rotation, as a leaky defensive outfield undermines the overall work of the pitching staff. Cleveland sinks to 4th in the AL Central, and the fan base is thoroughly discouraged in the aftermath of the departure of the face of the franchise. Number 19, the Boston Red Sox. Best case scenario, JD Martinez finds his way back to his 2019 form and powers a resurgent offense to help the Red Sox hang in just over 500 until the time Chris Sale returns. With Sale leading the pitching staff, Boston mounts a charge at 90 wins and challenges for a wild card. Worst case scenario, the Red Sox 2021 season looks pretty much like the 2020 season, only for a full 6 months. Martinez seems done. Sale's injury rehab lingers, and Boston's overall run prevention turns into a nightmare. Leads to a fourth place finish. 20. The Cincinnati Reds. Best case scenario. The Reds' defensive positioning efforts are able to overcome a lack of athleticism with their position group. Nick Senzel, Jonathan India, and Tyler Stevenson all look like future stars, and Cincinnati rides a strong rotation to 87 wins and an NL Central crown. Worst case scenario. The pitchers are undermined by a horrific team of defense. The offense flounders from a lack of elite production at any spot, and the bullpen implodes in a most unsavory manner. The Pirates keep the Reds out of the cellar, but the 90-plus losses for a roster with a veteran flavor is demoralizing. Number 21, the Miami Marlins. Best case scenario. Sixto Sanchez, Pablo Lopez, and Sandy Alcantara lead a rotation that coalesces in the NL's best. Jazz Chisholm gives dynamism to a lineup of average hitters and solid defenders. The plucky Marlins battle to 80 wins in a tough division and energize their fan base for years ahead. Worst case scenario. Chisholm struggles as the Marlins continue to search for a young position player to emerge as a future star. Meanwhile, one or more young starters backslide or get hurt, and the Marlins lose 98 games and give back the gains they made with their faithful in last year's surprise playoff run. Number 2, the Kansas City Royals. Best case scenario, Andrew Benintendi rediscovers the star path he was once on in Boston. Adalberto Mondesi breaks out with a 25-homer, 50-steal season that puts him in the MVP conversation. The rotation flourishes from the depth and an ongoing infusion of recent early-round draft picks. Bobby Witt Jr. joins the party by June, pushing the Royals to a 90-win wild-card season. Worst case scenario. Basically, none of the above happens. Benintendi's slide proved to be irreversible. Mondesi continues to be maddeningly inconsistent. The young starters can establish themselves. Witt remains a minor leaguer. Carlos Santana looks done, and the Royals end up dealing Jorge Soler at the deadline. KC flops to 95 losses, and questions about the efficiency of the Royals rebuild abound. 23. The Giants. The Giants continue to engage in a bold rebuilding effort without bottoming out. That leaves their upside is mediocre, and in a league where mediocre likely leaves you out of the wildcard contention, the short-term outlook is blah. But there are enough viable veterans on hand that give good health, and San Francisco will push towards 80 wins. Worst case, as for bottoming out, when your upside is the middle and you got a lot of older players, it is possible player availability issues snowball. And despite being a team in the tank, you do a good imitation of one. Worst case for the Giants would be finishing behind Colorado, which would translate to somewhere around 100 losses. Oh my damn. The Arizona Diamondbacks. Arizona looks solid on the run prevention side, so if they can get a couple bounce back or breakout seasons at the plate, the Diamondbacks can mount a surprise run at the NL second wild card. And if the NL East flops en masse, one breakout candidate among the batsmen is Josh Ross, who has generated a lot of preseason buzz. Worst case scenario, the offense hits its lackluster projection, and what looks like a solid starting rotation doesn't hold up. The D-backs end up as trade deadline sellers on their way to 90-plus losses. Number 25, the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners plan for crowdsourcing their rotation this season, and this could be just a campaign where it helps as much competitively as developmentally. Any surprise Mariners push toward wildcard contention would involve a collective breakthrough by young guns like Taylor Trammell and Jared Kelenic, with Evan White perhaps joining them by finding another level at the plate. Even so, the upside for the M's looks like the low to mid 80s in the win column. This worst case, this season just becomes one of growing pains for the pitching staff. While the likes of Justin Dunn and Justice Sheffield give us reasons for hope, Seattle struggles to prevent runs. Meanwhile, the strikeouts pile up for an offense that looks contact challenge. The Mariners lose 95 to 100 games on the way to a last place finish. 26, Texas Rangers. The Rangers see some young players plant their stake at future parts of the Texas core. Nate Lowe, Nick Solak, Leody Tavares, Isaiah Kenner-Falafa, Willie Calhoun, Kyle Cody, and Dane Dunning are among those on the early big league roster to watch. If that happens and some youngest veterans like Joey Gallo and David Dahl go off, the Rangers can make a run at 500. Worst case, with spring injuries hammering the Texas bullpen, you worry that a spate of early losses caused by blown leads and spirals into a quick hole that the so-so rotation in a lineup that's still too all or nothing can't climb out of. Can't climb out of. The Rangers are evolving, but the progress will remain a hard spot to. Um, Jesus fucking Christ! I've been talking and reading so much. I apologize, everybody. I also apologize for maybe not saying a lot of these names wrong. It's so apologize for all of this. So let's try this again. Worst case scenario, and I'm gonna leave this in both podcast and the video. I messed up. So what? With spring injuries hammering the Texas bullpen, you worry that a spate of early losses caused by blown leads spiral into a quick hole that a so-so rotation in a lineup that's still too all or nothing can't climb out of. The Rangers are evolving, but the progress would remain hard to spot in the midst of a 96-loss season. Okay, we've got 4 left, thank God. Detroit Tigers, best case scenario. The young rotation comes together ahead of schedule, with Casey Mize, Tariq Skubal, and Matt Manning looking like the second coming of Hudson, Zito, and Mulder by the end of the season. Miguel Cabrera enjoys a resurgent season that takes him past 3,000 hits and 500 homers. Hall of Famer A.J. Hinch guides the Tigers to 78 wins and convinces Motown fans the trajectory arrow is pointed in the right direction for 2022. Oh, yeah. The worst case scenario, stagnation. Cabrera struggles, yet his slow crawl to the milestones remain the most interesting thing to go on at Comerica Park during another run of 100 losses. But the worst thing is the young starters struggle to establish themselves in the majors, and top hitting prospect Spencer Torkelson flails in the minors. Yeah, we got to root for Cabrera getting those 3,000 hits, 500 home runs this season. That'll be good. 28, the Colorado Rockies. Best case scenario, Brendan Rodgers, Ryan McMahon, and Sam Hillard emerge as solid support in the lineup for Trevor Story and Charlie Blackmon. The rotation continues to look like a foundation for the Rockies to build on. Story signs an extension to win back a modicum of goodwill from Rockies fans, though Colorado still finishes under 500. Worst case, it all falls apart. Story is traded for pennies at the deadline. Blackmon begs to follow him out of town. This rotation struggles. The Rockies lose 110 games. Everyone gets fired, and the Manaforts call John Elway to gauge his interest at a return of baseball. Oh my God. 29, the Baltimore Orioles. Best case, the upper end of the Orioles projection doesn't get them to 500, but there is a 31% shot at escaping the cellar. If that happens and multiple young players establish themselves as future regulars, it will be a good season in Baltimore. Worst case, Baltimore could well challenge for the top pick in 2021 draft, so even a disastrous win total isn't the worst case scenario for the O's. But if that is paired with a lack of progress by their top prospects, especially Ashley Rutschman, that would be bad news. And finally, um, the the Pittsburgh Pirates. Best case scenario, the Pirates get promising news on their future core. Brian Hayes becomes the NL Rookie of the Year. Mitch Keller starts to find himself, and the Pirates play with vigor despite a 104-loss season that puts them in the top slot of the 2022 draft. It's certainly possible that the Bucks could overachieve and win 70 games and escape the NL Central cellar, where projections slot them 85% of the time. But that would really be a best case for this team. Worst case scenario? Well, it's not the 1899 Spiders or the 1962 Mets or the 2003 Tigers. But if Hayes flops and pitching staff ends up populated by by 4A arms, the Pirates could thread the needle in terms of losing 105 plus games while failing to establish any semblance of hope that things are going to get better, but they still could get that top draft pick. Which, by the way, for those of y'all who may be wondering, 4A, yeah, there is no such thing as 4A. It's just three levels: 1A, 2A, and 3A. Triple A, double A, and single A. There is no quadruple A. Quadruple A is what they say for players who are too good to play in the minor leagues, but for some reason can't play in the majors. So they call them quadruple A players. All right, so now since we're going over all 30 teams, let me give you my predictions of what is happening this year with the awards and then the winners and everything like that. So, manager of the year in the NL, I have Mike Schlitt of the St. Louis Cardinals. In the AL, I have Rocco Baldelli of the Twins. I think both teams will shoot up this year and make surprising runs toward the World Series. Rookie of the year, I have Brian Hayes of the Pirates, and I have Randy Arozarena for the Rays. We saw what Arozarena did in the playoffs last year for the Rays. I gotta be honest with you, I don't know a lot about Brian Hayes, but you know what? I hope to find out a lot about him this year. Cy Young, the National League, Walker Buehler of the Dodgers, and in the AL, Lucas Giolito, the White Sox. The White Sox are going to be good. I think Lucas Giolito is going to be one of those guys. I think he's gonna step his game up, win that Cy Young, and help the White Sox get into the playoffs. In the MVP, I have Cody Bellinger winning it for the Dodgers in the National League. In the American League, I have Aaron Judge winning it for the Yankees. I know it's pretty hard to pick, with Aaron Judge being so injury prone, but I'm going to take a risk and say, and just stop picking Mike Trout or anybody else because that's what they want to give it to. I'm going to say Aaron Judge has one of those crazy years where he stays healthy, plays 155 games, hits 50 home runs, driving 150 RBIs. How about that? So Aaron Judge. For the NLCS, I would have the Dodgers winning over the Cardinals 4-1. In the ALCS, I have the Yankees beating the Twins 4-3. And in the World Series of the Los Angeles Dodgers and the New York Yankees, seemingly what everybody wants to see, who is not fans of other teams, the Yankees beat the Dodgers 4-3, and your World Series MVP is, of course, Aaron Judge. All right, that is it for this edition of this podcast, The Game According to Me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and for those of you guys who are listening as well. I appreciate all of what you do. Please, if you have the time, you know, subscribe and share and do all those good things. If you're watching, if you're listening, say the thing, subscribe and share. Let people know that you're listening to this fun, good podcast that talks about sports and everything like that. Sometimes it's about wrestling. Didn't talk about it a lot today, but I'm on the WrestleMania, thing, so I'm on that. So yeah, make sure you go ahead and do all those things for your boy. Post your comments for those of you guys watching. Post your comments. My cat just come out of nowhere. Post your comments down below. Tell me what you guys have seen or heard, or what you think, whatever. God. Just post your comments down below. Let me know what you guys thought about any of the topics I talked about. We talked about the March Madness. We talked about NFL, the Deshaun Watson stuff afterwards. We talked about the NBA trade deadline. And, of course, MLB predictions and preview. Let me know any of your thoughts, what you feel about that down in the comment section. For those of you guys watching this on YouTube. For those of you guys watching it on guys listening to this on the podcast version, yeah, just send me a thought on Twitter. What you guys think, or send me on my Facebook page, AJTRIP, or yeah, or you can go to the YouTube video and post your comments on there. Let me know what you guys think about anything I've talked about in this podcast. Please, I would really like to hear your thoughts and opinions. Make sure you go to patreon.com/AJTrip to become a patron. Once I hit a certain amount of patrons, you will be determining what you can see here on the YouTube channel, or what you would like for me to talk about here on the podcast, or if you are a gamer, what you would like for me to play over on my gaming channel, twitch.tv/AJTrip. Also, you can also go to anchor.fm/Andre Triplet Show, and you can be a subscriber there, and you can, you get no perks, nothing like that. But if you feel like you want to subscribe, there are 3 tiers you can subscribe on that place as well. Anything you do, I just appreciate the fact that you guys are willing to listen to this, and again, once again, willing to share this video or this podcast with your family and friends or people you think you would like it. That means more to me than you subscribing, or Patreoning or whatever. That's a new word, Patreon. So let's outro the let's go ahead and let's outro the YouTube video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like the video, you share the video, you subscribe to the channel. You can click that notification bell so that when I go live, you will be you will be there. Like from wrestling next week, NXT Takeover, night 1 and 2 of Stand and Deliver, night 1 and 2 of WrestleMania, Rebel Reactions. I'm gonna make sure that when thank you guys so much for watching. This is your boy AJ Trip signing off. For you guys watching for you guys listening on the podcast, thank you guys so much for listening. As always, for the both of you, be good to each other, y'all. Be careful out there. And I am out.